Okay, this video is for Landmark in particular, and then our community, of course, those who might be interested in what we're doing and will be doing. Right now we are looking at utilizing the type of facility we have to our advantage, that is leveraging it to our advantage, and that's something. We have a large footprint, which is a better way, nicer way than saying a box. So we have, it's actually worked to our favor, which is nothing uncommon for us to have the Lord do that for us. So we have a great chance to long-term go into a what we call the social distancing. Others are having cell groups, less than 10 people in houses, I suppose. And some groups, large groups, have already, I guess, sustained that practice for a while. But in our case, we have an entrance here, large double entrance here, and then we have single here, then we have exit here. And of course, when our building, literally we have it partitioned, it has partitions already. So this is a classroom type, and here's 2 classrooms here. This is a resource room. It has double doors there. It's a resource room. Anyway, long story short is we have a temporary partition already up here. So what we'll be doing is we'll have seat arrangements like this in cells. There we go. If I can draw it all in here. Anyway, so in theory, for example, let's say these were 8, less than 10. I'll just draw that, less than 10. And this would just be, this is where people will go. Let's say this is 50 plus. So if you're over 50, we'll put you there and then let you exit here and enter here. So you'll exit, enter, and to be very nice. And then here, of course, this is the front of the building. I mean, this is where the, let's say the podium is right here. And of course we have screens, but the screens we'll have 2 screens, move those out here. Then of course we already have the tables we've done before, but it's very large, huge building as far as a footprint. So we'll never have, then partition seating, those that want to be that require partition, less than 10, less than 10, less than 10. All these will be groups with plenty of space. Now I can't really show the space. I can't scale it, but we'll have all this space. There'll be plenty of all kinds of space we have. And then of course along this back here, there's bathrooms here. But anyway, that's what we'll be doing. It's our Koine Compliance. We'll have cells. People remain as at their social distance. It'll actually be more distance within our facility than what you would experience at Walmart. And then Walmart's a good standard. I went there this morning and you can't, even if you self-check, you're having to touch stuff. So I go to a place called Home Depot, and they handed me this scanner gun and I had to pick it up. So I asked the worker, I said, "Has anyone touched this?" And of course they had. So I actually interacted with things that had been touched by thousands of people more than if I had just worked with a person to check out the products I had. So a human interaction would have been safer for me than having to take this pricing gun, scanner gun, and then touch these screens and then take the pencil and touch the screen and put the pencil back, knowing hundreds of people, thousands of people have already been there. And of course, when I said something, they wanted to come over and spray, and I'm like, it's a little too interactive for me. So it's similar to putting your mouth to a water faucet in a public water faucet. It's not something we do once we get older, but we know as children we did it. We know as children we ate off the floor, we interacted. So this situation here will provide the cell integrity, the number, and people won't be together in proximity as much, well, won't even be close. Matter of fact, it'll be so much less interactive. So we have priority for partition seating. There's, I didn't scale it, but like there's area back here for nursery. There's classrooms, 2 classrooms here. So that's partition seating for those that need it. So we have all that. So, and then of course in these areas, there's no ceiling in those classrooms. So the hearing is very easy. But as far as coming in, we'll take care of the priority, which is to protect this, whatever that number is. I just use 50 as a number, but the ones most susceptible, older, younger, of course. And that's our initial compliance for long term, so that if this were to take place for 45 more days, 90 more days, or all the way into the fall, we would be social distant compliant. We'd be social distant compliant starting this Lord's Day, this Sunday, for example. So our large box, our big footprint, our partition in the middle that we've had, the partitions without ceilings in these areas. I mean, this is a multi-user, multi-use building that certainly hasn't been what we preferred for those of us who began to build in phases, but it certainly seems to be quite an advantageous building now, since people can be here in cell groups, social distant cell groups, so they can maintain their social distance cells, if you will. And then our compliance, so we have compliance, we have our cells, so everything, it's a win-win for everyone. And then of course we even have optional entrance and exit, so we won't be getting in a hurry. These doors close, so when all that begins, and of course with the screens here and here, then we can just use live streaming and place that onto those screens. So really it's a great solution because we want to comply. We don't want to be irrational, but once the extremes form out there, and what I mean by that is once sides form, some insisting we'll continue to assemble, okay, it's really nothing, I have no judgment about that. Others saying we'll just cancel completely, again, no judgment there. But once that happens, that's when evaluation becomes much more easily done and performed. For example, someone came online, someone that works with cell groups, and he was speaking of how advantageous it is to have less than 10 people interact and all that. So you have cell groups remotely meeting somewhere. So then you have a distance that's now a factor. So we have the problem, or the solution somewhat fell in place for us because you have distance, then we have cells, and then we have cancellations. Yeah, they're canceling. So distance, cells, cancel, and then assemble. And that would be greater than 10. And cancellations are going to online, things like that. But when we totaled it up, we thought, well, if there's a distance we can achieve, and there is, so we met that. There's cells we can have, we met that. We don't have to cancel. We have online website with videos for teaching. We can live stream, which that's no problem. You just click on that on Facebook. There's nothing there. We can still assemble. because historically we've had people sit on the farther side of the seating in a sanctuary seating arrangement than the other. So this distance will just be much greater between these groups in that area we have. And like I said, it's because the building's just a big box, it'll be so easy to set this up. And then of course people just, you know, as they do when they leave Walmart, and matter of fact, I interacted, socially more interacted on the sidewalk at a local Come and Go. A friend of mine approached, and he hadn't seen him in a while, and of course we didn't touch hands, but we elbow, which is still, that's not really social distance. So, and then one of the workers were out front on a break, and of course I'm a secondhand smoker, so I stood there inhaling secondhand smoke. And again, I'm just glad that we can set this up with something in the middle, and then that middle would be cells at a distance, and that's the main thing. And even now we're getting text and people asking, and everyone always hears what someone else is doing first, and then everyone jumps in, and then there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of banter, and that's okay. That's really just the energy trying to, you know, as people react to all this. So what we're doing, since we took on the imposition to make our first phase a multi-user, multi-use facility, just a large footprint, and because we didn't want a sanctuary area to be interfered with by this commons area, we installed a temporary partition. Well, now we can make that an actual sanctuary, a sanctuary in function as well as in the sanctity and the intention of it. So sorry about this, it's just when people text right now, there's a lot of things out there that are what you would say a little more urgent than necessary, so I don't want to heighten that concern for people. So to just go this, to summarize, we have cells, and so we can do that. So how would we have cell groups? So we can do that, but we need to have the distance, so we can do that, and we can avoid cancellations. Well, I don't know how to spell cancellation. I think it's 2 L's. But anyway, so we can avoid that, so we don't have to do that. And then we don't have to assemble closely. There we go. So we can avoid this, so we can assemble and seat according to cells. Sorry, start writing Koine Greek, isn't that silly? Seat according to cells, and then literally have a sanctuary. Sanctuary area. Yeah, I have literally a sanctuary for elderly, I should say, for those of us who might be over 50 but don't want to. So that's what we'll start with this. This is our, what I'll be calling our Koine Compliance. And our goofy footprint, big large box that sometimes hasn't always been admired. Sometimes people have taken a shot at us, but okay, so now it looks like it could be very useful to have such a huge, large box with footprint, because we can maintain the distance that we're being asked by the leadership of our nation. The cells then don't have to be remote. We don't have to have remote cells. So we don't have to have that. We don't have to have cancellations. We don't have to assemble closely. And then of course we can literally have a sanctuary. This area here be for And then, of course, we remind those that are sick, but we've never really had to tell people who are sick not to attend, so that really won't be a new thing for us to encourage people who are sick not to be here, unless you've attended some church somewhere where people were having to be told, now you all are just too faithful in your attendance, you need to tamp that down a little bit. So we've had people miss when someone in their family was sick. The whole family would stay home. So I know that was true back as long ago as the 70s. So anyway, so we don't really have anything else there, but this is our compliance strategy. The plague is real, the virus is real, the epidemic, pandemic, any word you want to use to describe something that is so heinous that its subtlety can be deceptive, all that's real. So how we can help, and how we can help in a win-win fashion and still not be a detriment to our community and to our congregation, because I assured our congregation here at Landmark that they had not done anything to their own detriment nor to that of others by being faithful here as we were even last Sunday on the Lord's Day. So remaining faithful, can we be faithful and good stewards, of course? Can we exploit our facility and leverage it to our advantage? Yes, because I don't really care about this side for basketball. I don't care about this side for whatever their social functions have been. I care about it now for achieving the distance for us. So, and you're invited, by the way, if you are here in the community. Well, I guess you would be if you're listening. And, well, no, you could be listening, okay, whatever. So if you're here locally and your congregation can't achieve cells with distance and assemble and seat according to those cells, and then have a sanctuary, literally a literal functional sanctuary that would help guard and improve the safety and well-being of those who might be, as we know, the professionals have said, this is graded, that is, it's weighted, it's on a scale. So if the older, more susceptible, will have literally physical partition. And actually it would be even better than some of the waiting rooms we have to sit in at hospitals. And the magazines people touch, research has said that's very much a way that people have communicated things to each other. So, and as someone who's been involved in hospital visitation for 40 years, I've been in and out of hospitals. We have people that work here, several people that work here in the medical profession who come here after being exposed 7 days a week sometimes continuously around all types of things, and yet we still come here and interact. So this will actually be safer for the time being, and long term it would be viable for us to continue, and again, as those who would rather comply according to the experts, and then those of us who would rather assure that we have a way of meeting that satisfies the less than 10, then that's what this does all that. So instead of pushing back at what's being asked, I prefer just to incorporate all the elements, line it all up, and then there's your solution, because it's easier. Again, like I said, if you look at the sides, there was no intention for adversarial incitement and people now going to their corners and pointing their fingers. And there are a lot of, well, I would say there's probably a lot of faith-based or fellowships or churches or whatever they call themselves that have facilities that could be arranged to assure the distance according to cells, still assemble but seat according to these cells, and assure that there's a sanctuary marked off for that would keep anything out here. And I talked to a friend of mine, I've talked to 4 pastors now, and it was just real interesting to talk about the middle wall of partition, because I was laughing about that because we have one. and we can literally quadrant this off in cells, and actually it's more distance. And if we reduce, for example, if we suspend what we call Sunday school, so that we just come in at our 10:30 start time, and then we're out by noon, and then of course this group will exit first, and that's real easy to do because we'll just stop. They'll exit out, very orderly and calmly, and don't want to be anxious, and then this group goes, and then each of the partition groups, for whatever reason they might prefer partition seating, then it should be, again, it's just the first step for us. So it's Koine Compliance phase 1, and that's what we'll do, because it seems to be better than just falling in between the cancellations, which is really upsetting people, and then the determination to assemble anyway, which is really bringing unnecessary reprisals onto people. So this is how you can take it seriously. Respect the professionals, respect the healthcare professionals, respect the leadership that we have. We're a constitutional republic, and we don't need to, and since we're not here at Landmark Missionary Baptist Church, we're not, I don't even know how to say it. We're an asset to the community. We're here salt and light. We're not what you'd call it. We're not a blight. We're a blessing. We're here to bring life into our community. So this is Koine Compliance phase 1. So read it, think about it. We'll be publishing a PDF online giving more detail to it. So let me get out of the way. And anyway, that's it. And sorry that this isn't to scale, and I'll get a PDF for the rest of you guys here at the church house, and then anybody online wants to access it, it shows it. But those of you that have been here before, we've got this partition that divides the building in a large way. Then we have this, and so we'll just remain very careful. We have ushers here to make sure that we don't unintentionally, by going back and forth to bathrooms or the restrooms back here, not pause here at the door, wait till it's clear, I guess, for lack of a better word, and then have people, if there is an exception, if someone has to go there, then we'll work all that out. But this is phase 1 of Koine Compliance for the CDC and the COVID-19 virus, and this is how we are taking our facility, and we intend to exploit it so that it meets the distance requirements that we're being called for. So our standard right now is, how can we be better than Walmart? And that's really our standard. And how can we have less than 10, well, we call them cell groups. And how can we assemble? Well, if we seat according to these cells, maintain that distance, and provide a sanctuary for the most susceptible. And I use the word elderly. Who cares? If you don't like the word elderly, you're probably too young to be the one to whom I'm making reference. So, and if the worst problem you got during this outbreak and this plague, this pandemic, this virus, whatever it is you were given more respect. And so when I say elderly, I mean like elders who earned that right and respect. So anyway, so you have a blessed day.